The dashboard clock blinked 12 a.m. when I pulled into the driveway, the glow from my headlights washing over the frost-glazed lawn. Christmas Eve had finally arrived, but the holiday spirit hadn't followed me home from the trauma unit. 14 hours, 3 cardiac arrests, 5 accident victims. By the end, even my bones felt heavy. I expected darkness when I opened the front door. My husband, Michael, was still in Seattle for business, and our daughter, Maya, had gone to my parents' annual dinner. But instead, the living room was bathed in the soft amber of a lamp. Maya was curled on the couch, still wearing her coat, her face hidden under a spill of dark hair. The untouched plate of food on the table told me more than I was ready to know. Quick reminder, most of you aren't subscribed. If you enjoy this, hit subscribe and like now, then let's get back to the story. Maya? I whispered. Her eyelids fluttered open. Hey, Mom, you're home early. Her voice cracked, thin as glass. What happened? Nothing, she said, trying for nonchalance. But her hands were cold when I took them, and I could see the faint streaks of dried tears across her cheeks. Grandma said there wasn't room at the table. The words hit harder than any trauma I'd faced in the ER. She said, What? There were a lot of people there, she whispered. Neighbors, Dad's cousins, Grandma's bridge club. She told me they thought I was coming with you later. Said I could wait in the kitchen if I wanted. My heart splintered. I could picture the scene, my 16-year-old standing in that doorway, clutching her plate of homemade cookies, being told there was no place for her. I'd been the family's fixer my whole life, paying their bills when Dad lost his job, smoothing over every insult, every slight. I'd spent 8 years covering the mortgage on the house my parents lived in, writing checks while they criticized how I'd abandoned them for a career. But as I tucked Maya into bed that night, her voice cut through the years of denial. They didn't run out of chairs, Mom. They just didn't want me there. Something inside me cracked open, quiet, clean, irreversible. I brushed the hair from her forehead and whispered, Never again, sweetheart. Never again. By morning, the manila folders were spread across the kitchen table. 8 years of checks, property taxes, and bills I'd paid. Michael stood behind me, his hand steady on my shoulder. You've been paying everything, he said softly. Over $100,000. I stared at the evidence. My parents' house in my name. My sister's kids' private school tuition. The laptop I'd bought for my niece while Maya settled for watercolors. Then, tucked between Maya's mattress and box spring, I found her journal. Pages filled with quiet pain. Grandma told everyone my art award wasn't real. They took 2 cars and said there wasn't room for me. Everyone got Apple Watches. I got socks. Tears blurred the ink as I closed the book. She's been protecting me, I whispered. And you've been protecting them, Michael said. That was the moment everything shifted. The precise second I decided that love without respect was just captivity. Some tables weren't worth having a seat at, and some chairs were better left empty. I woke before dawn on Christmas morning, unable to shake the thought of Maya's face when she said those words. They didn't want me there. The house was silent, the kind of silence that hums. While Michael and Maya slept, I unlocked the drawer in my home office and laid out every piece of proof. Tax statements, check registers, utility receipts, transfers to my sister Carla. Each page was another scar I hadn't noticed forming. When Michael came down, coffee in hand, he didn't ask what I was doing. He just said quietly, "It's time, isn't it?" "It's way past time," I answered. By noon, my attorney friend Sarah sat at our kitchen table, a legal pad open in front of her. "It's simple," she said. "The house is in your name. They're tenants without a lease. You can serve a 60-day notice." I hesitated. "Isn't that cruel?" Sarah looked at me for a long moment. "Cruel is making your daughter feel unwanted. This is self-respect." That night, after explaining everything to Maya, about the house, the money, the decision, she was quiet for a while, then asked softly, "Are you sure? They're your parents." I smiled at her courage, at her compassion that still hadn't hardened. "I'm sure. This isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you." When I signed the eviction notice, my hand didn't tremble. The letter was brief, emotionless, but I felt every word like a heartbeat. 60 days to vacate. Financial support terminated. 3 days later, my mother showed up, color high in her cheeks, clutching the torn notice in her fist. "This is how you repay us?" she spat. "After all we've done for you?" The old version of me, the daughter trained to apologize for existing, would have folded. But that woman was gone. "You'll leave within 60 days, I said, calm as stone. "I'll have my attorney send a certified copy." Her voice dropped to that manipulative tone I knew too well. "Lily's robotics camp costs $800. If you help with that, we can forget this nonsense." No. Just one word. But it felt like a door slamming shut on decades of guilt. That night, the voicemail started. My father, weary and disappointed. "You're destroying this family over nothing." My sister's Facebook post calling me heartless. Cousins messaging me about honoring thy parents. I deleted every one of them. At the bank, the manager hesitated as I canceled the automatic payments. "You've been sending this money every month for 8 years, he said. Not anymore. When I walked out, the air felt sharper, cleaner. I was lighter by more than dollars. At home, I started documenting everything. Calls, texts, their posts. I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. A week later, my mother ambushed me in the hospital parking lot after my night shift. Her voice echoed through the cold air. "You're throwing us out over one dinner? One misunderstanding?" I met her eyes. "You told my daughter she didn't have a seat at the table." That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was the truth finally showing. Jennifer, a nurse from my unit, happened to pass by and stopped. "She's been paying your mortgage for 8 years, she said, her voice sharp. My mother's face twisted. "This is private." "Not when you bring it to her workplace," Jennifer shot back. I didn't look away from my mother. Any further contact goes through my attorney. By the time I reached my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the gentle kind, but the fierce, protective kind that burns away fear. Pastor Thomas called the next day. "Boundaries aren't unchristian, Stephanie," he said gently. "Neither is protecting your child." He was right. The following morning, Maya's therapist confirmed what I already knew. Her grandmother's oversights weren't accidents. They were patterns. Deliberate. Harmful. I looked at my daughter across the kitchen table, sketching by the window, light glinting in her hair. For the first time in years, she looked like she belonged exactly where she was. This wasn't about one dinner anymore. It was about reclaiming what love was supposed to mean. The doorbell rang just then, Sarah with final papers in hand. As I opened the door, I caught Maya's reflection in the hallway mirror behind me. Calm, steady, and no longer shrinking. "Ready?" Sarah asked. I nodded. More than ready. By the second month, the silence from my parents' house had turned into something electric, like the quiet before a storm. Then, one morning, 6 cars filled our driveway. Through the window I saw them, my mother, father, aunts, cousins, all gathered for what was clearly an intervention. "Right on schedule," Michael murmured from the kitchen. I opened the door before they could start pounding. My mother swept in first, eyes glassy with rehearsed tears. "We need to talk as a family," she announced, as if that word still meant something. They filled our living room, my childhood's entire cast of guilt and manipulation. My father began his speech about honoring thy father and mother. Aunt Louise chimed in about forgiveness. And then my mother turned to Maya, voice soft as silk. "Sweetheart, don't you want your grandparents to have a place to live? You don't want to be known as the reason they're homeless, do you?" I felt Maya flinch beside me. That was their strategy. Go through her, the softest heart in the room. Later, when they finally left, I sat on Maya's bed while she twisted the blanket between her fingers. "Is it cruel, Mom?" she whispered. "Making them leave?" "There's a difference between cruelty and boundaries," I said. "Cruelty hurts people for power. Boundaries protect us from being hurt again." Her eyes filled with quiet understanding. "Like when Grandma said there wasn't room for me, even though there were empty chairs. Exactly like that." 2 days before the eviction deadline, I watched from the window as my parents' car pulled up again, this time with a small rental truck behind it. No extended family, no crowd, just the two of them and their regrets. Sarah, my attorney, waited inside with the final paperwork. My mother's face was tight, her jaw trembling with rage. "After everything we've done for you," she hissed, "this is how you thank us?" "I'm not doing this to you," I said quietly. "I'm doing this for Maya." Something flickered across my father's face. Shame, maybe even recognition. "We should have treated the girl better," he muttered. "We shouldn't have made her wait in the kitchen. It was the closest thing to an apology I would ever get." My mother grabbed the clipboard, scrawled her signature, and shoved it back. "You'll regret this," she said. "I already regret every year I let you hurt my daughter." 2 hours later, they were gone. No shouting, no theatrics, just boxes in a truck, a Buick pulling out of the driveway, and the sound of a door closing softly behind them. The next morning, Maya found me in the kitchen. "There's a for sale sign outside," she said carefully. "Are we moving because of them?" I smiled, pulling her into a hug. "We're not moving away, sweetheart. We're moving forward." 2 years later, the same kitchen glows with morning light. College brochures cover the table, coffee cups steam beside them. Maya is radiant, full of plans, her laughter filling the room where pain once lived. That night, friends crowd around our Christmas Eve dinner. Nurses, neighbors, people who've earned their seats. Every chair is filled and every voice carries warmth. Maya moves gracefully between the table and the kitchen, her confidence unshakable. My mother's words echo faintly in my memory. No room at the table. I glance around at our home, our chosen family, our laughter, our peace, and whisper, "There's no room for cruelty here anymore." Later, when my phone buzzes with a message from a blocked number, I don't even read it. I delete it without a flicker of hesitation. Maya rushes in, waving an envelope. "Mom, it's here. My acceptance letter." I pull her into my arms, her joy contagious. The girl who once cried herself to sleep on Christmas Eve now shines with unshakable light. Before she leaves for college, I slip a framed photo into her bag, a picture of last Thanksgiving, our table surrounded by the people who truly love us. When she finds it, I tell her softly, "They said there was no room for you at their table, but now there's no room in our lives for cruelty." Together we stand in the doorway, sunlight spilling over us, mother and daughter stepping forward into peace, into freedom, into light.